All right. Well, we are back for Revelation chapter 8. And we're back with Lukey and David. Corn dog. Well, actually, Hammer. Oh, gosh. Maybe y'all should start calling me Hammerhead. Instead of corn dogs and coffee, Hammerhead and coffee. Anyway.
I'm putting down in my little notes here. I don't keep these church bulletins week to week like I used to. Remember, I have a stack of bulletins. I put them on my bookshelf because I do take notes on them occasionally. Usually in Sunday school, actually. But anyway, I for some reason I've just put down a note to go back and read Revelation 6 on my own later. I don't know why, but
Revelation 6 is a good chapter.
Just read 7. We've already read through 6.
Well, you want to go over 6 real quick?
Let's just
for a little snippet.
I don't really know why.
Because that makes sense because chapter 8 is the 7th seal.
Chapter 6 at the end is where we're hiding from God, essentially, and we want the rocks to fall on us and protect us. Not us, essentially, I guess. It's not us.
Yeah, it's not us, no.
Protect.
Because Revelation chapter
8.
Oh, we were talking about reading chapter 6.
Yeah.
Or what do you think?
Let's just go with 8.
All right.
Yeah, we're good. I just wrote it down because I don't know. I'm pulling something from all these chapters that could go together. Hey, look in chapter 8, verse 13.
Okay. Revelation 8:13, and it says, I looked and I heard an eagle flying high overhead, crying out in a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to those who live on the earth because of the remaining trumpet blast that the 3 angels are about to sound.
I just thought the fact that your YouTube channel's name was in there 3 times was kind of funny.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Okay, so I'll start in verse 8, chapter 8, verse 1. And we'll just go through here and pick this apart, like usual. When the Lamb was opened, the 7th seal, when the Lamb opened the 7th seal, there was a silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt that. Heaven was silent for
about half an hour.
Heaven, probably the throne of Jesus is up there, right? Worship and praise for eternity. But half an hour.
Dude, when you say worship and praise for eternity, do you think that we'll be worship and praising for like with harps and stuff? Or do you think we'll be able to have like worship bands? You know?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like if I could play worship music for eternity with the band, bro, that'd be sick.
Yep.
That would give me pleasure. So that would kind of be conceited, I guess, and wouldn't fly in heaven.
Right.
But I don't feel like I feel like I'm gonna be happy. Anyway, we'll keep going.
I like that.
The heaven was silent for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Verse 3.
Another angel with a golden incense burner came and stood at the altar. He was given a large amount of incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints. I love that. On the golden altar in front of the throne, the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints went up in the presence of God from the angel's hand.
Then the angel took the censer, which my ESV is using censer as the incense burner.
Yep.
Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder rumbling, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Now the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to blow them. Verse 7.
Then the first angel blew the trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were hurled to the earth. So a third of the earth was burned up. A third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Verse 8. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain ablaze with fire was hurled into the sea. Wow, that's crazy. So a third of the sea became as blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed.
The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the water because it had been made bitter. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that the third of their light might be darkened, and a third of the day might be kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night.
And then I looked and heard an eagle flying high overhead, crying out with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to those who live on the earth because of the remaining trumpet blast that the 3 angels are about to sound." So, thoughts?
You know, I don't know. I've never heard of the star named Wormwood my entire life. What does your verse call it? Oh, verse 11.
Wormwood.
The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven. So we would say, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. Mm-hmm. So whatever this is that fell from heaven, wormwood, a star named Wormwood, has infected the waters of the earth.
Right.
Because it says, the star's name is Wormwood, a third of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the water because they had been made bitter. So a third of the waters became that. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, and these were thrown upon the earth. So the earth was covered in hell, fire, and blood. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. A great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood. What does a third have to do? Why is it all thirds?
Ooh. I did notice that.
Time for some chapter 8 commentary.
Okay, 8:11 says wormwood, a bitter, poisonous substance, and it comes from a root that causes drunkenness and eventually death. There's some references here too. But
Okay, this is cool.
what you got?
So in verse 7, the first trumpet brings a plague on vegetation. People wonder if it's going to happen through. It's obviously going to be fire, but
Yes.
it's going to be pollution, nuclear war, something like that of a thing today. It says this is not nature taking its course.
Right.
This is happening. The second trumpet brings a plague to the sea, which is obvious in that verse. The third trumpet brings a plague on fresh waters. So, which we read. The fourth trumpet brings a plague on the heavens and darkens the earth. It says in verse 12, the fourth angel blew his trumpet, and the third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that the third of their light might be darkened, and a third of their day might be kept from shining, and likewise a third of night. This does not describe a 1/3 lessening of light, but a 1/3 of day and night are plunged into absolute darkness.
I think, if I may, and this just hit me a lot like, duh. But what do you think about this? The half is to show, and whenever all this takes place, keep in mind heaven's going to be shut up for half an hour or about half an hour, whatever, right? So this is going to just cause mass chaos, and half of life on Earth is expelled, it's dead, gone. What do you think? That's just my theory. But I think it's clear though, because half of the sea creatures are dead, you know.
I'm ready to get into verse 9 for the sole purpose of finishing the trumpets. Because we're seeing here in 7,
Chapter 9.
in verse 7 of chapter 8, we're seeing a plague on vegetation.
Yes.
Verse 8, we're seeing a plague on, verse 8 and 9, which would be the second trumpet. We're seeing a plague on the sea, the salt waters.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Verse 10, we're seeing a plague on the fresh water. And verse 12, we're seeing a plague on the heavens and it darkens the earth. So I am wanting to see where we go from there.
All right.
We can jump into that if we want to just keep this one going, 8 and 9.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'll start with first two verses here, 9. Chapter 9, for those of you listening. And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star falling from the heaven to earth. And he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke, like the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened with the smoke from the shaft.
Then locusts came out of the smoke on the earth, and the power was given to them like the power of that scorpions have on earth. Verse 4, they were told not to harm the grass of the earth or the green plant or the tree or any tree, but only those people who do not have God's seal on their foreheads.
And from the smoke came, I'm reading this again, verse 3. From the smoke came locusts on the earth. They were given power like the power of scorpions on the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any green plant or any tree, but only those people who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. In verse 7 of chapter 8, 1/3 of the vegetation essentially has already been taken out.
Yes.
And to prevent any more vegetation from being taken out, the locusts have been commanded not to partake of anything.
Yep.
There is a story that I had to read in college, and if you don't know this, locusts feast on
Anything.
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 There's so much.
They're the greediest insect.
Locusts will feast on plants. They'll feast on wood. They'll feast on anything.
Yep.
And apparently here we're seeing that they were told not to harm the grass, but only the people who don't have the seal of God on their foreheads.
Uh-huh.
So if we're not one of the 144,000 with the seal on our forehead, are we going to be eaten by locusts?
I don't think we'll be here. Because this is referring to the trumpet. You know, we all come, God comes and gets us. We're out of here.
So is this God's wrath?
This is God's wrath on the earth.
So yeah, we won't be here.
They
This is verse 5. It gets good. This is going to be the one I pick up in.
In verse 9?
In verse 5,
Chapter
chapter
9?
9, yeah. They were allowed to torment them for 5 months,
Yep.
but not to kill them. And their torment was like torment of a scorpion when it stings someone.
Yes.
And in those days, people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. And this is on earth.
Yes.
This is, if you notice where the locusts come from, the place the locusts come from, the bottomless pit, as it says. The fifth angel blew his trumpet. I saw a star fall from heaven to earth, and he was given. When it says "and he was given," was it talking about the fifth angel?
Yes.
He was given the key to the shaft
Yes.
of the bottomless pit. He opens this up. Here come the locusts who have been commanded. Have they been commanded by Satan to do this, or by God to do this? He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke, like the smoke of a great furnace. Because
the angel opened it up. If it weren't for the angel, the locusts would still be in the ground. Or in the bottomless pit.
You're right. Verse 6 in chapter 9, it also defines it describes hell.
Yeah.
People will seek death and they won't find it.
Mm-hmm.
They will long to die, but death will flee from them. That's good. That's
Terrifying.
yeah. Verse 7, I guess you could pick up there.
Yep, absolutely. The appearance of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. Something like golden crowns was on their heads. Their faces were like human faces. They had hair like women's hair. Their teeth were like lion's teeth. Your turn.
I'm actually looking up a picture of these locusts.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do 9. They had chests like iron breastplates, and the sound of their wings was like many chariots with horses rushing into battle.
They have tails and stings like scorpions, and their power to hurt people for 5 months is in their tails. They have as a king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. Who's that?
Wait, where are you at? Verse 11?
Verse 11. They have as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew... Oh, if I kept reading. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he is called Apollyon. Verse 12. The first woe is past. Behold, 2 woes are still to come. Then the 6th angel blew his trumpet, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar before God, saying to the 6th angel who had his trumpet, Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. So the 4 angels who had been prepared For the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill a third of mankind.
The number in verse 16, the number of mounted troops was 200 million. I heard their number. This is how I saw the horses and their riders in the vision. They had breastplates that were fiery red, also blue, and sulfur yellow. The heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and from their mouths came fire, smoke, and sulfur.
By these 3 plagues, a third of mankind was killed by the fire and smoke and sulfur coming out of their mouths. For the power of the horses is in their mouths and in their tails, for their tails are like serpents with heads, and by means of them they wound.
The rest of the people who were not killed, by these plagues did not repent for the works of their hands to stop worshiping demons and idols of gold, silver, bronze, stone, and wood, which cannot see, hear, or walk. Verse 21, and they did not repent of their murders, the sorcerers, their sexual immorality, or their thefts. So, thoughts on chapter 9?
The fifth angel and the releasing of the locust is kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
I looked up some pictures here. Just based off of the description. This is a pretty good picture, I guess, of. It's kind of like a mythological picture here, obviously, because we have never seen something like this in person. We can't really comprehend it. There's 2 pictures that I want you to see. This one's kind of cool here. Basically, it's the description that we saw.
Wow. Yeah.
The face like a lion, or like a human with the scorpion tail. That's absolutely terrifying. But look at this. This is something that I like. Crown of gold, breastplates of iron, teeth of a lion, faces of men.
Wow.
Tail of a scorpion. Wings with the sound of an army of horse-drawn chariots. Be the propeller there?
Uh-huh. Whoa.
That's the kind of thing that I get into, but
That could be true, though.
100%. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have that when this was written.
Right.
So he's seeing a. I don't know. It's kind of cool. And the people on the podcast, you can't see that, but we were looking at some pictures of the description that we read in verse 1 through like 10 of chapter 9. And the sixth angel blew his trumpet and heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who were bound at the river Euphrates. Have we read about those?
Did we? No.
Four angels bound at the river Euphrates. So
No.
the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill a third of mankind. I feel like we've read about them somewhere.
Have we?
We should have some context by now on those 4 angels, shouldn't we? Yeah, we read about 4 angels who were. Yeah, in verse chapter 7, verse 3. Do not harm the earth or trees until we have sealed the servants. That's talking about
Gotcha. Yes.
loud voice of 4 angels who had been given the power to harm the earth. I'm actually going to reference that back over to that verse. That's going to be Revelation 7:3. I'm just going to put 1 through 5. I don't like having just one point to go to.
Right.
Well, 1 through 4. But yeah, so in this particular verse, this particular chapter, we see descriptive things about some of the angels' trumpets, what they're going to bring. I don't know, but I'm really glad that I'm not going to have to endure those deaf human locusts. But that's kind of terrifying. Verse 20 talks about the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues did not repent of their works. Because if I'm not mistaken, you'll have the opportunity up until you die to repent. Even when God's wrath, right? Can't you?
Yeah.
So what about the people who did die? Did they die because in verse 7 it says, do not harm the earth until we have sealed the servants. So the people that were killed, were they sealed? Did they get killed because they were saved?
Yes. Yep. Because you see, when Jesus comes back, the people who are left on the earth, they're going to say, some of them are going to get it and say, oh, dang, that's the Messiah. We miss it. So in one day, they're going to repent and be saved and be killed for their witness. And, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's kind of what I pulled from there. But
you ready to go to 10, or you got anything else?
I'm good. That's 8 and 9. We can stop that here and have 2 chapters in this one podcast, and then start another one for 10.
Sounds great.
So that's it for 9 and 10. 8 and 9 rather. We'll get into chapter 10 in the next episode.
All right.